All right, we are live. And on today's episode, I interview a somatic healer, sexologist, and relationship coach. She is also one of the owners and lead facilitators of the Institute of New Paradigm Intimacy, the only globally accredited certification to become a sexuality practitioner. This upcoming December 29th to 31st, she'll be co-leading a desire resolution retreat with Stephanie Jaie. This is an intimately guided, luxurious 3-day retreat in Austin, Texas, or you can also join online, which I am hoping to do myself, to manifest with your pleasure. Welcome to the Winner Circle, Chelsy Brause.
Oh, thank you so much. What a great intro. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, it's all the amazing things you're doing, and I'm excited to just delve into your hero story. But before we do that, just the intention behind all these conversations is to uplift, inspire, and empower everyone tuning in to move forward with greater faith, belief, and trusting themselves on their hero's journey ahead. And so, my first question kind of sets things up on a really positive tone. These conversations take that direction. So, what do you love, Chelsy, about your current world right now? Not about the external world, what's going on the outside, but what do you love about your personal world?
Hmm. What a beautiful question. Thank you for that. Oh, what do I love about my personal world? Well, yeah, if I'm like completely honest, I am just so in awe with my family right now. So I have a 14-year-old and I'm in an 11-year long relationship. And I I've never felt so full by just the relationships in my life. Just more specifically, just like with the little family that I've kind of created and co-created. Um, so that is really what is just, I'm just like so filled to the brim, even though it's just like some days you're just like, oh my God, like, how am I even going to get out of the bed? Like, my son isn't listening again. He's failing class. Like, just so much chaos. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, when I just reflect on it, like just in the last couple of days, we had like this parents versus kids basketball game. And for a lot of people, it's not like super sexy or like, whatever, but it's just so nourishing. Because when for me, my entire life, having a family has just been the utmost important thing. I ran away when I was 16 years old and I've been homeless. I lived on the street. And I remember just like crying myself to sleep, just like wanting a family and just because I felt so alone. And yeah, it's just been really hitting me lately. I guess it's the holiday festive time too, right? You kind of start thinking about family a little bit more and it's just really really landing on my heart really deeply, especially just this week. So, yeah, thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you for that honest answer. I'm excited to delve more into some of those shares. But before we do, I listed a lot of titles that you hold in the introduction. And one question I asked all the guests at the beginning, to get a better idea of them, and so the listeners can get a better idea who this person is pertaining to their personal mission. So, in everything that you do, whether that be your somatic healing, your work as a sexologist, or a relationship coach, or as a co-facilitator of retreats, or a mother, a partner, a friend, what is your overarching mission that guides you in everything that you do, Chelsy?
Yeah, another really beautiful question. And it really does come down to just this personal feeling of alignment. And to me, what I truly have just I've gone really deeply within myself to kind of pull myself out of the trenches, if you will. Just my own internal world of pain and suffering. I have a really colorful, dark, if you will, background. I've had three really, really abusive relationships. And yeah, just coming from my background, I mentioned about being homeless and just really craving that family dynamic. So I've really been in that darker side. And I really do believe that for just so many people, our missions really do come through the messy, darker aspects of our life. I like to say our mess is our message, and we really develop so much from there. So in my journey, I've had to really move through a lot of that. And on the other side, um, you really just see the beauty in it. And for me, like my mission is like really bringing those aspects of myself back into wholeness. And a huge part of my mission is really discovering that through all of this, our pleasure is what really brings us back into alignment. And because of this huge desire of wanting intimacy and profound connection and love and ultimately family, um, what always I came back to was, oh, sorry, what I should really say is what found me in that quest was sacred sexuality and pleasure and learning how to develop like really core pieces within intimate relationships. And so my mission has really been learning how to um, bring these pieces within myself back into wholeness, because the deeper I've got into like sacred sexuality, like Tantra, Taoism, and just all these other various different lineages that are really holding sexuality and spirituality on like the same levels, really, that there really isn't much of a separation between the two. The deeper I've dove into those the last 5 years now, um that is really what's brought me into more wholeness and deeper into my healing. And what's happened, it's for me is fascinating to see is just how it's touched all of my relationships. So not only has it really brought myself into more feeling more loved and valued as a human being, because I have a deep past of just feeling unworthy and not enough, and just um yeah, just like really in my own soupy core wounds, and also like abandoned by both my parents. And these teachings around pleasure and like orgasm and just our sexuality and how beautiful it is really what's allowed for me to remember that I am valuable, I am powerful. And in integrating that in myself, it's brought so much beauty in like myself as being a mom towards my son, in being a lover to my partner, in being a sister, and being into like a sister to brothers and sisters and all these things. And so my mission has just come forth like, oh my God, like this is just like so fucking valuable. And so my mission is just really integrating that into society in the best way that I personally can. And it's been through my business.
Uh-huh. It's like a return to wholeness is kind of the theme.
Yeah.
So how have you returned to that space, a space of being
Mm,
enough, exactly as you
mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is a battle. Like it's so funny. Like I can't necessarily say that I've achieved this amazing thing, because the human condition, right? Like I have my low days. So it is just a constant remembering for me to really come back into that sensation of like, I am whole as I am now. And what has allowed me to kind of continuously come back into that remembering is it's not going to be that sexy, but just having like a daily practice that really allows me to be aligned. And my core, I guess, core things that I do is essentially self pleasure. And when I say self pleasure, though, I don't mean like masturbation or like the thing that people would say like on TikTok or on Instagram to be more artful and not get like censored. Like I actually mean a really beautiful practice that we train our facilitators over at New Paradigm Intimacy. So self pleasure is essentially using the tantric tools of sound, breath, movement, and touch. And through these 4 tools that we all have access to, which are actually quite literally free, through these tools, it allows us to drop from the mind to feelings to emotion to sensation. And when we do this on a regular basis, we start to relate to our body, our feelings, our sensations, and even just the world and the people around us at a sensational level. And the reason why this is just so fucking profound is that when if you understand anything about trauma, or if you've heard or read anything about trauma, but trauma is established when we are no longer experiencing the moment as it is. Trauma happens when we are up in the mind, and the mind has a really hard time at relating at the feeling sense, so the sensation sense of the experience, and we're no longer in our body because it's too much, or it's too quick, or it's just too much for us to experience. So we're no longer feeling it at a sensational level. So what's beautiful the ability with self pleasure is that it's quite literally training you to build a healthy, resilient nervous system to experience sensation. So even when things feel like, oh, it's just too much, you go back to those tools of sound, breath, movement, and touch, and you're completely grounded in your body. You're experiencing life. And from this place, you do develop the capacity to experience more. You end up becoming a lot more grounded in, I don't know, someone yelling at you, just all like various things. There's so many different things that we experience in a day, but that is just like a really grounding practice that I do. And because I've done it for just so long now, and for anyone that ends up like practicing it on a daily basis, your day ends up becoming like this really orgasmic sensational experience where you are just so in your body, and you're feeling the person you're talking to moment, and with your lover you're feeling them moment to moment, and just life just becomes so much more juicy. It's amazing.
Uh-huh. So let's delve into that a little bit more. So first, what is like Tantra? Like these are tantric tools. Can you just kind of explain what is that for the person that does not know?
Sure. Yeah. So Tantra, it is more like a philosophy. You can consider it, well, I guess some people would call it a religion, but I like to think of it more like a philosophy. It's like a way of life. And it truly is bringing the like relating with the life such that everything is divine, and everything has some form of consciousness, and rather than kind of like pushing off as like mundane or anything like that, you are really bringing in um the presence of yourself with that thing and relating to it as another, as something divine, rather than just it's just a plant. No, but that plant actually has a form of consciousness and experiencing it as such. So that's kind of how I relate to Tantra. Now there is obviously like different lineages, like there's white and there's black, like there's the different kinds of lineages, but overall overarching, like I'm not an expert in Tantra or anything like that, but overarching to me it is just a philosophy and a way of being. And if you get really specific, there's ways to practice Tantra, and there's very like rigid rules and things like that, and those things I don't really know, but to me it is just a philosophy and a way of being.
Okay, so your tools that you use are sound, breath, movement, and touch. So can you kind of get into how you use those daily?
Yeah, absolutely. So even with you and I right now, like as I'm speaking to you, I'm very much in my body. I'm very aware of my heart beating. I'm very aware, oh, is my pelvis, like my gut, is it like getting a little clenched because maybe I'm holding a little bit of nervousness? So I'm not necessarily using touch in this moment, but I am very much using my awareness to really sink into the sensation in my body. So if I do end up feeling, let's say, I don't know, maybe, yeah, as now I'm kind of speaking to it, like my gut is like slowly kind of like, is like a little bit of clenching. What you can do in those moments, if you are feeling nervousness, you can just go deep breath. And immediately, like, there is a release if you really allow yourself to sink into that, like the vibration of the sound and the breath. Oh my God, the breath is quite literally like our life, right? To me, the breath always represents our life. I know you're a yogini as well. I'm sure you have a very similar philosophy to in connection to your breath. And, when you bring that breath in, it's like, how deeply are you allowing breath to come in? And how I like to relate to that is, the more we breathe, the deeper we breathe, the more feeling we're allowing into our life. So it's like when you're not breathing deep enough, what are you avoiding from feeling? And it is just like, it is such a beautiful way to kind of like, just kind of gauge where you're at in your day. And so that's kind of how I like to use just sound and breath, for example.
Yeah. And then movement, how do you apply the tantric tool of movement?
Yeah. So this one is beautiful. So it really, again, it depends exactly what you're doing. But if I don't know, if I'm walking around and yeah, I'm just feeling again like maybe nervousness. This is like the easiest thing to kind of think of right now. There's so many different ways, but if I'm feeling like nervous for a reason, I'm just give like a just like shake my body. Just movement, just like shaking the whatever that shit is that you're kind of holding on to. Just shake it out. And shaking itself, like that form of movement, is a really, really powerful nervous system regulation tool, because you are just kind of like letting yourself release a lot of like like whatever sensation was stuck there. It could have been like anger, it could have been like the need to like run away. And you literally, if you ever observe like an animal, specifically dogs, they're wonderful to observe. When you see them get like shook up, or just like excitement, or just like an excess amount of energy, what do? They shake. They immediately shake. It is such like just like a normal thing to do to release excess energy. And so yeah, shaking is one way. Also dance, a really, really beautiful way to like move and loosen yourself up. So that's how a movement would do. Yeah.
Okay. And then the last tantric tool is touch. What's that look like?
Yeah. So touch, like we know how to touch, but for an example, like if you were to just think right now, and I would point out like what is your hand feeling right now in this moment? Prior to that, likely there wasn't really much connection. So the power of touch is like, oh, okay, and okay, now I got my awareness on my hand, but maybe I'm still not feeling much. Maybe it feels cold. But to invite the feeling of like touch into play, like all of a sudden there's like a whole new sensation going on. And so using touch, if you just invite you to try it now, you can just place your fingertips on your palm. What were you feeling before? Now compare it to now. All of a sudden, like there is no, like your awareness isn't like floating around to the left or the right. Now your awareness is quite literally wherever your fingertips go. So it allows you to really connect that like mind body connection so intimately without the mind wandering. So touch is just like another really powerful way. Like if, like you're nervous, or I don't know, like I can't think of an example right now, but if something's going on in your day when you're with your lover, and maybe you want them to just really be here with you, right? You just like, okay, like I could see your mind is wandering, and you really want them to be here for you. A really beautiful way is just placing your hand on their shoulder. And then all of a sudden, like kind of like lets them know, like, yeah, like I need you here right now. And it just really brings them in the moment. So touch is just like a really powerful way to help us stay in our bodies a little bit better.
Uh-huh. I really appreciate those explanations. These conversations are called Welcome to the Winner Circle. So I'm just curious to ask you, what does winning mean to you, and what does that look like for you in your life today?
Winning. Oh my gosh, that's such an interesting question for me. I've had such like an aversion to competition for a long time. But for winning for me today, yeah, I feel like I'm winning in the day when I'm most aware of my heart. Like I really, really do. Cause, again, like I get really busy in the day, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this, just, getting caught up in your schedule and your to-do list and, just mundane life tasks. It's not romantic at all a lot of the time. And I really believe that, the more that I kind of check in my heart, and I actually do this quite regularly. I'm like, oh yeah, how's my heart today? Like, oh, can I feel my heart right now? This is something I actually do quite regularly. And I feel like the days that I'm most in tune with my heart, and then, making my decisions from my heart, I feel like a winner. Like I personally just feel so on top of the world. I'm just like, wow, like today was a good fucking day. And to me, that feels like winning.
Yeah, beautiful, amazing. And what does like winning look like for you in your life today? Like, what does your day comprise of? Like, what are you doing with your day?
Mm, yeah. Oh no, my God. So this week has just been pretty wild. I've had one, two, three. This is my third podcast this week, and I actually have one more tomorrow. So this week has just been like a lot of fucking talking. So that's really funny. So yeah, so I guess for me in that respect, it's like I'm doing a lot more in showing up outwardly rather than, because I'm usually I don't know if you know anything about human design, but like I'm a 2-4 profile line. So it's like a hermit opportunist. So I lead in the world kind of very just like in my own world. But in like internally, unconsciously, I'm very much of like, I love the people, I'm here for the people sort of thing. But anyways, I'm used to just being very much in my own world still, showing up as a facilitator and new paradigm intimacy, still connecting with my clients and things like that. um but it is like just more, like I still have more space for my own personal things. I also create content on the regular, so it's like just still kind of with myself though. um so I'm able to kind of check in with my heart a bit more regularly, like I mentioned. So now to this week, like I mentioned, it's just been crazy, this like outward kind of like sun energy, if you will. And so I feel like I've been dealing or managing with really well, because I'm still noticing that I'm kind of tuning in with my energy levels. I'm still like, oh, okay, like do you have the energy capacity to do this podcast? Oh, like, are you gonna have time to do, your breathing and like these sorts of things? And yeah, it's been feeling really, really good. So
Uh-huh.
I've been feeling really good about that.
Amazing. And one of the reasons why you've been on all these podcasts is you're promoting a retreat that you have coming up at the end of December, with one of my friends and former guests here, Stephanie Jaie. So you guys are leading the Desire Resolution Retreat. It'll be in Austin, Texas at the end of the year. So what is that all about?
Oh my gosh. So, in short, it is going to be a 3 day, really intimate hybrid event. So, it's in person and online. And the main focus is to teach our participants and kind of go through the process together with the participants on how to manifest with your pleasure. And we're super pumped because this is actually something that I've personally been trying to manifest for probably 2 years now, maybe longer. To get a really powerful group of like-minded people together intentionally to do sex magic together. So this is something I've been like really, really keen on doing, because you can imagine, I'm sure like your listeners maybe too know a little bit about like the law of attraction, such that we have this really, really powerful um like transmitter that is us. And when we focus that transmitter in the right frequency and we all put the same intention on it, like it is so powerful. Like there's so much research now with like the Heart Math Institute. And I don't know if you know Joe Dispenza, he's a mentor of mine, and he's all about using the mind as a tool to not only heal the body, but also create collective change. And he's actually done some really, really powerful gatherings where he gets a group of people together with a shared intention to like heal essentially. And there's been reports that there's been like strange events like quite locally of like like people mysteriously getting healed from cancer, and just like all these like really, really amazing fucking things. And these are the power of like going into the state of like gratitude and like joy and like freedom, like these really beautiful um frequencies that we can tap into and then point our own transmitters to. So, our intention in Desire Resolution Retreat is really to, no one, first of all, help people clarify the power and the magnetism of their heart's deepest desire. So, we're going to use the power of the heart, that which like Joe Dispenza and like Heart Math Institute, these other really powerful, like scientific research facilities have actually proven works. And what we're doing is, and what we've actually discovered ourselves, Stephanie Jaie and I, is that not only does that work, yes, it works, and we have a much more powerful frequency that we can just dump some rocket fuel onto our current manifestation practices that her and I have both personally done ourselves. So what we're doing is teaching people how to tap into that heart's desire, get really, really clear on what that is, pull away the conditioning and the programming that simply was never ours to begin with, to just really come back into that remembering of what's true for you and what the fuck do you actually want to create in 2024. And then we're going to teach everyone how to manifest with your pleasure. And if you think about this, pleasure is like the state of alignment. When you're in pleasure, what are the, like, if you were to think about like a word to describe when you're in pleasure, or even just right after you experience an orgasm or something, like a peak state of bliss, the words that I hear people say is like free, I love ecstasy, complete. Like these are just like very like words that people say. Like even for yourself, if you were to kind of tune into like a word that you could think of when you're in like a peak state or right after a peak state.
Like peaceful, the present.
Yeah, exactly. It's so beautiful. And when we tune into that, if you feel the state of gratitude, like your heart is like exploding. But when you're feeling that along with a peak state and you're directing that into your highest intention, your heart's desire, like the thing that you want to create in 2024, that shit is just like crazy potent. And we're going to be bringing a group of people doing this together at Desire Retreat, which is just going to amplify it like a million times. I am so pumped.
So what exactly is sex magic?
Yeah. So sex magic is essentially, well, there is a whole process. I don't, you may or may not seen it, but if anyone's curious, I have our whole process on my Instagram. I did a live stream that has the walk you step by step. But essentially, once you move through the process, to kind of to oversimplify it, sex magic is allowing you to use your sexual energy, move it through all your energy centers, and at your peak state is what you're doing is really aligning it to whatever the thing is you're manifesting. So whether it be like, I don't know, like the caveat here is it doesn't really need to be true to your heart. Otherwise, you're just going to be amplifying a lot of shit that you're not going to be too happy with later. And I also did share about a lot of the misconceptions on my Instagram as well, which was just really funny. So you do need to really be clear and focused and have really, really powerful intentions of what it is you're calling in. Um, so essentially, yeah, sex magic is using your sexual energy to manifest.
Okay, and how do you use your sexual energy? Like, yeah, how do you do that? Like, is it a sex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really simple. If you were to build your sexual energy, build an arousal, that can be done however it is you choose to. So you can even, if when you are a bit more advanced, you can quite literally just kind of start tuning into your sexual energy and feel the arousal. You can use your breath. Something I teach my one-to-one clients is how to use the breath to build their sexual energy to an actual peak. So energy orgasms are very, very real for all genders. So anyways, however you want to build your sexual arousal, that could be during intercourse with a partner, or it could be solo. You don't necessarily need to do it with anybody. And in the retreat, this is all solo and there's no physical touch. So it's all like in your body, in your body, in your body, just for better context and visuals for people. So essentially you're building your arousal. And your arousal is your sexual heat. That is your sexual energy. So you're going to be using that energy and you're going to be building it to the state where it moves through all your energy centers, and you're going to be allowing it to move through your brain because it's connecting with your intention in your brain.
Okay. And so, like, how do you build your sexual energy? Do you think like sexual thoughts? Like, that's like, yeah, how do you build your sexual energy with
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. So you can do it that way. I do caution because when you are thinking sexual thoughts, it is easy to have the monkey mind kind of go completely into the reptilian state, such that you are very, very primitive in the thinking and you're kind of lose the intention entirely. Right. So it is really easy to kind of shut off the mammalian and the limbic system and go completely reptilian, and it's very reactive. So this is a huge piece to my work with my one-to-one clients, such that through breath awareness and intention, you learn to train your reptilian mind. So you're actually quite literally um, learning how to be in your sexual energy and training your nervous system and how to respond and to respond rather than react. So this is actually a really funny visual, but I love using this example. I don't know if you have a dog or a cat or anything like that, but if you ever see them kind of like in their instincts when it comes to mating, like they have like that hip pelvis thing, like the males like they'll like do the hip pelvis, like they'll hump the air or something, and the females they'll raise their rear end, right? Like they're that's like the reptilian mind. Like that is a really, really primitive state, and like the bodies react because that's just what they know when they're in the sexual energy, right? So humans are kind of like that when we sorry, you cut out.
Yeah, I said, yeah. What does it look like in humans?
Yeah. So it depends. Like, it really depends on the behaviors that, like, the sexual patterns that someone has had throughout their whole life. So this could just be, you know, regular friction sex, like you would see on porn. It's just like quick, straight up penetration, very just hard and fast. Like that's kind of how, that's kind of why you see sex in that way. If you look at porn, it all kind of looks the same. It is that very reptilian state. Like it's just penetration, in, out, hard, fast kind of thing. And it's, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's a time and place for it, right? But when we're using our sexual energy for something like manifesting our life or wanting to even channel it into our day to day, then we do actually need to overcome the reptilian state of that, the regular um, primal fuck, if you will. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. Primal fuck is delicious when you know when to implement it, when it makes more sense, and it's like a very, very true to the heart, to the moment, and to like both people in that moment. It's very true. But in the respect of manifestation, it is not, it doesn't really do us much of a service. So in that respect, yeah, like a lot of like what we can do is we can use our breath, and our breath really allows us to be a much more intentional and to also amplify what we're feeling. And so that is how you can build arousal. That is how you can build your sexual energy. Um, so I can't remember exactly what your question was, but yeah, I can't remember what your question was.
You said like the cats and like how they
Right.
uh, look like in.
Right. Yeah, I just love this. Sorry, it makes me funny when I visualize it. So anyways, yeah, so similar to how like the cats and the dogs, and they kind of go into that state as soon as they start building their arousal, because it's that primal reptilian mind. So we are the similar way. So if we don't actually have any intentional practice or training, we quite literally just do the same thing in our lovemaking and when we're in our sexual energy. So it makes it really hard for us to intentionally channel and use that sexual energy. So this is why for me, like in my one-to-one with my one-to-one clients, is a huge focus is training the nervous system so that when it does hit that reptilian primal fuck state, we can actually choose to respond rather than react. So like we can respond just in a completely more aligned or authentic way, whatever that is. I don't know, it's different for everybody.
Okay, so what's like what's a possible response when you feeling that primal, that reptilian urge? Like how could you respond? Um, yeah, what are the options for response there?
Mm. Well, let's try to have a specific situation then. Let's say, I don't know, you're with a woman and you are in that like that reptilian mind, and she isn't quite ready. You guys, it's been like 5 minutes, maybe you guys literally just got naked and the primal fuck is in overdrive,
Yeah.
right? And you're ready to just go full on penetrate and like hard fast thrusting at that moment. I think most people know at this point. If you do or don't, it's not a big deal. It's not the place. But women do take a little bit more time to warm up, right? Like, so what's really important to see, like, what's really attractive actually for men in this situation is knowing that, when they have that primal fuck, there's this sense of restraint that they have. And when you're with a woman that isn't quite ready yet, and she can feel that primal fuck just coming online, and you're holding back that gorilla, like that is hot. That is so fucking hot, and that in itself will probably get her really ready. But just keeping to note that it does take time for a woman to get ready. And just some key things, I guess, now that we're on this topic, to help know if a woman is ready, is like if you can actually just notice her breathing. Like, is her breathing shallow and just kind of in her heart space, or is it long and slow? And is it like, can you actually notice her pelvic bowl, like her lower belly expanding? That right there will just show you that she's relaxed enough and can trust you. And obviously, please always ask consent when you don't know. Consent is very sexy. Always ask. But another key trait is her vulva. her vulva will quite literally change color. As the genitals get more engorged, the blood flows down to the genitals. And when the more she gets aroused, and it's really beautiful, is her yoni lips, they start to kind of like blossom like a little flower. They actually also, because of the rectal tissue, they also will grow and will get engorged too. So what I love to just really note that when you are at more of a skillful lover level, that primal fuck is still there. Like that never goes away. But there is now a level of restraint and sensitivity and equanimity in those moments. So it's not so reactive. There's that peaceful state within like that, oh, I want to tear her apart, and that's fucking hot too. But like there's still like that that deep connection with the breath and just equanimity with the sexual energy.
Huh. That's really great info. Thank you for sharing all that. Now I want to kind of delve into your origin story, how you got here. So you were mentioning that like you ran away from home at 16. Like you could start there, you could start before that. But how did you become what you are now, a somatic healer, a sexologist, and a relationship coach? How did that come? How did that?
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I did run away when I was 16, and that was just a gong show. I was actually homeless for a number of years after that, and I moved from Winnipeg to Thunder Bay to Thunder Bay to Regina to Vancouver to Vancouver to Regina to Regina to Winnipeg when I had my son again. And it was a really chaotic time in my life. I just got into the wrong crowd. I've stolen cars, I've done robberies, I've sold drugs. Hopefully I could say that and not get in trouble, but I've done like a lot of shit anyways. And the men that I chose at that time, they didn't hold me in reverence, they didn't honor me, they didn't respect me, and it ended up being incredibly abusive. Um, and like physically abusive, emotionally abusive. Like I almost went into debt because of one of them. It was a really, really dark past. And when I had my son, that was like my wake up call. Like it for sure was my wake up call. Having my son really like woke me up in a way that's like, okay, you're no longer responsible for yourself. You're actually carrying another human inside of you. Do you care about this human? Of course I do. Okay, straighten your life the fuck up. Like it's time to wake the fuck up. So that was 14 years ago. And quite literally, as soon as I became a mom, that was the best thing for me. And I think a part of me always knew that, because even like the father that I chose at that point, he was one of the abusers in my life at that time. And I knew like I had to get out of that relationship, but my son was the key motivator. So from there, I started to build my life. I went back to school. I had dropped out of school when I ran away from school, so I went back to school. I got my college degree in computer science. I became a software developer in corporate, and yeah, my life started to kind of like progressively get like better and like safer and just like more stable, and which was great. But I don't know if you've had this experience before, if you've had any type of chaos in your life, and when you're in that space, like your key motivator, if you're aware of it or not, is to get out of chaos and find safety. Like that is it. It's like get out of survival, find a safe place. So that was my key driver, especially having my son. Is like I need to protect this kid. I need to be responsible. All these like stories in my head. It's like, I really need to do this. So I did do that. I created a really safe and beautiful home for myself, my son, and my lover. We ended up buying a house together. I mean, out of this lucrative position as a software developer in a really big corporate business, and everything seemed fine until the shit catches up with us, right? So I realized how reactive I was. Like I was a fucking bitch to my lover, I was a bitch to my son, I was a bitch to myself. Like, and I started to question that and like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck, Chels? Like, I don't even recognize myself. And then I also realized how lonely I was because I started asking those questions. And I realized that like at this point, I think it'd been about 6 or so years, or 5 or 6 years deep, in my now relationship, my 11-year long relationship. And I felt so alone. I was like, on paper, I have everything. What is wrong? And I just find that those questions are the most powerful for anyone to start asking. Not necessarily what is wrong with me, but like, who am I? Like, what am I doing with my life? What do I want to do in my life? So I started asking those questions, and I started my own healing journey. And the first thing that found me actually wasn't necessarily sexuality, it was meditation. And meditation was like the most powerful thing for me then, and still is. I still do meditation. It's still really, really important in my life. I feel like because of the human condition and the way our minds work, we need something to really focus that mind and like learn what focus actually is, and like have the beautiful awareness of something bigger than what is like this physical meat suit of ours, just having the awareness of awareness of presence. So that was really powerful and profound for me. And what I love about that part of my life is that it allowed me to discover what I really wanted. And yeah, I wanted to be a mom. Yeah, I want to be, a lover and like be really good at all these things. But what came to me as I was sitting on my meditation cushion was like, I want to be of service. And I was like, wow, okay, well, what does that mean? And I started asking like more questions. And from there, like maybe like a week later, it was quite quick. That's when I found sacred sexuality, or I should say sacred sexuality found me. Like all these like really beautiful schools and like modalities and practices, and it just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And it hit me so deeply because I was so magnetized to it. I was like, fuck, this is it. Like this is how I can be of service, because I not only did it touch me so profoundly, but I kept hearing stories of other people that were touched by it too. And I'm like, fuck, like there's something here. Like there is something here.
Mhm. And then so you started to educate yourself.
Deeply. Like I think anyone can relate to, finding something that just touches them so profoundly. Like you go through a huge black hole. Like it's like book, it's like mentor and like course and like this retreat and like this, it's like you just keep going and going and going and going and going and going and going. Yeah.
And then you became a coach.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did that process look like? And then so did you leave the corporate job and became a coach? Like how did you transition? What did that look like?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that question. I don't really talk about that much. So while I was a software developer, so I just want to paint this picture a little bit. So the company I worked at, I won't name it, but it was just like a big insurance company. It's Canada wide. It's also in the States, so it's large. And if anyone has ever been in a big corporation, you know that there's like hierarchy and there's like um I was also always busy. I was always fucking busy. Like I felt like I was in a factory. Like I was just go, 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 go. Even though like I still to this day, I love technology. I will never stop learning about technology just because I just love it. Um, but anyways, yeah, I was just like very, very heavy, heavy up in the mind, constantly like 10-hour days sometimes. And I like even like when I would put my laptop away, like I would have like an on-call phone. So I'd still get called in because it was just like very, very demanding. Um, and for anyone that's had any type of chaotic background, um, that is really difficult for you to sink into your body enough to feel what's really there. Like it is almost impossible. So when meditation came around, it allowed me to be aware of what was there. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got a lot of shit inside of me. But when it came to all the sacred sexuality work, um, and practices that I was doing, it forced me in a really beautiful way. to be with those sensations in my body, to be with the hurt from the abuse, to be with the feeling of feeling so unloved and abandoned from my parents, and the feel like just to feel all these dark, these things that you kind of run away from and you try to escape from in your day to day. And so I was doing all this work while I was going to my 9 to 5 as a software developer, going back in my brain, and then thereafter doing my healing and like being with my body, exploring pleasure and all these other things. And I've been doing that for a couple years, and I already knew about halfway, maybe about a year through, that like, yeah, this is what I want to do to help people. So I got my certification as a self-pleasure practitioner, and that's actually through the institute that I'm now co-owner of. And it is doing that kind of like as a hobby for about a year. And it just got to the point of me doing that and going to the 9 to 5. It just felt like I need to just fucking cut the cord. Like I can't do this anymore. Like I don't know if anyone's ever been in that kind of like space where, they had their side hustle or they were starting a business, and they they're just like, fuck, like I just want to ditch the day job. Like I can't fucking do this anymore. And I just remember like going some days, like I would get literal headaches because I couldn't be there. Like I hated it so much. Like it was painful. So I finally just told my boss, like, hey, I got to give my 2 weeks. Like I can't do it anymore. I basically just decided, because it got to the point where my body was physically reacting. Like I just don't want to do this anymore. And yeah, I decided, and I went all in. I quit my job, and I just did like full on did content creation. I ended up going viral on TikTok within 4 months of going fully full time all in. I had a video on TikTok hit 7 million views in less than 4 months. And I had 40,000 followers in 5 months. And I got my first 5-figure month in that same month as well. It was wild. Like I really do describe it as like this moment where it's like, okay, are you going to be half in and half out? Like, what do you want to do? And I fully just owned it, and I just went all in, and yeah, I just went for it.
That's incredible. And so your first 5-figure month, how did you earn, like what was the money from? Like from your coaching, from what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was from one-to-one clients.
Okay, and how did you recruit your one-on-one clients, and like yeah, how do you maintain these clients? Like how do you keep that well flowing?
Yeah, absolutely. So a big piece of it is word of mouth, and as well as content creation and things like this, like podcasts. Like how I relate to it is you're kind of like the online space is like your soapbox. You get out you get out into like Times Square, you put your soapbox out there and you start yelling your message. And I kind of relate to, well, maybe it's a bigger stage than just Times Square, but um online is very much related to that. And when you are clear in your message, you have conviction, and you know your value, you are magnetic as fuck. And the people that are, there to receive that message will hear you, and they will reach out.
Mhm. So what you work with your clients on? Like what, like you're typically like what does that relationship look like?
So there's a few avenues that I dwell in, but people will usually come to me like what I have such a soft spot in is people will usually come to me in wanting to experience relating bliss. And how I relate to that is it's, just having a more harmonious relationship, not only with your lover, but more importantly with yourself. So that's a big reason why people will come to me. And how that looks is very different for each individual, because it does come down to, like where you're at in your life. Like, are you looking to attract a lover or like find a lover, or are you looking to really build what you already have with a current partner? So that can look like, really diving into the somatic memory of the body. So it's like, oh, okay, like if you are currently in a really, like a lot of resentment with your lover, let's get into that. Like what's going on with that resentment? Where did it start? Why is it there? And a lot of the time it has a lot to do, just like at some point in the relationship, trust was eroded, and we need to get really clear and honest of like, okay, what, like, why is that trust now broken, and how can we repair and rebuild that trust? So that's a big piece. But another avenue is, people like, they may just be having issues with orgasm, maybe having ED, they may be having issues or just wanting to experience more pleasure in their sexual relationship, again, either solo or with their lover.
Okay. Um, and for someone wanting to attract that lover into their reality, what is your fundamental pieces of advice for those clients and for those, like, yeah, for those interested in that realm?
Oh, that's an interesting question, because a big piece of that is letting it go. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to fucking hear that, because I'll share a story. So as I've shared, I've had 3 back-to-back really, really abusive relationships, and statistically speaking, I shouldn't have a really patient, loving, caring, supportive partner. Like, statistically, my father was also an alcoholic and absent, and I had a really tyrant of a stepfather. So like, my history with men, and my preference is also being with men, just for clarity for people. Um, my history with men isn't the brightest. It isn't the nicest. Like, I have zero reason to um understand a healthy blueprint of a man and attract that into my life. So statistically speaking, is like, nah, like that wasn't for me. And that's actually what I believe. I didn't believe that that could be possible for me. So the last abusive relationship that I had, I quite literally decided that no, enough is enough. Like, first of all, like why does this keep happening? Like, there's got to be something going on with me. And I at this point, this was like almost 12 years ago now. And I was just, somehow I just knew, like, fuck, it's me. Like, there's something going on with me, but this is enough. Like, there was a huge decision of, like, viscerally, like, I remember feeling it, and not being any, like, I didn't understand manifestation or anything at this point. Like, I remember viscerally feeling like, no, enough is enough. Like, this ends with me. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this for me. I can't do this for my son. I can't do this. So what I would say is, the first thing to understand is just like to really get clear with yourself and to allow your body to experience your decision on what you want, like, viscerally. So my visceral claiming was that I'm done with people that don't respect me. I really need to learn how to respect myself. And that was like, was a full on decision. So I don't know if anyone is in the same situation as me when it came to like not wanting abusive people, but I think we all can relate to that. We don't want abusive partners. So that was like a huge decision for me. And then from there, I had to get really clear on what I did want. And this may not be that sexy, but this shit works. Like, just getting really, really fucking clear on what you want. And I mean it a value system. Not like, oh, I want blue eyes, or I want them to be curvy and I want them to be muscly. Not that shit. Like, because that will come because your body already fucking wants that. That will come. What really matters is what your heart wants. What really, really matters is what your heart wants. So, are you wanting someone that also wants a family? Are you wanting someone that I don't know, wants to be poly or like monogamous? Like, just really getting clear and open and honest about the deeper values that, people are maybe afraid to even talk about. Like, what are you really, really afraid to admit about yourself? And this can sometimes take, months to get really, really honest and open with that, with you. And when I did this for myself, literally, and this is going to sound funny, or maybe people may not believe it, but quite literally 1 week later, my now partner just popped into my life. And I do believe unintentionally I manifested him. Like, I really do, because I remember all these things that I did so clearly, and he just poof came out of
Wow.
nowhere.
Yeah,
Pardon?
how did he pop in and come out of nowhere?
That's the thing. I can't really explain it other than the
Like,
person that I used to work at Rogers and Corden. If anyone in Winnipeg, it's no longer around, but I used to work at Rogers and Corden. And the person that I was working with, he was one of his friends. And that would have been our only link. But other than that, we never would have met. And he's also a few years younger than me. So at the time, he was 21 at the time. So I had I met him before I made that decision, I would never have chosen him because I would have thought like, oh no, he's too young and I have a kid. There's no way this would work. I had the time my son was 3 and he was 21. I was like, what 21-year-old in his right, like his right of mind would want to be with a mom with a 3-year-old, you know what I mean? So it's just like it makes no fucking sense.
Right.
But because I had decided and like quite literally like, okay, I deserve, someone that respects me. I deserve someone that also wants a family and like has like a stable life. Like it's not like not gonna abuse me and like has a car, like just really basic things. And yeah, like when he showed himself, it felt so right. It just felt so right.
Uh-huh. So it's not always been easy. There's been highs and lows.
Yeah.
Discuss some of the lows like you have so far with like just having to run away from home at 16 to the obstacles there. Maybe let's discuss like your biggest challenge in terms of relationships and how you overcame that.
Mm. Oh, well, let's see. Where do we want to go with that? Because there's a lot of challenges. Let me think here. Because like I can share like specific, like really fucking traumatic times. And I wouldn't say I really overcame them then, such, but I did kind of like come out on the other side of it, sort of thing.
Yes, just I don't know, some sort of challenge you've encountered on your journey, that you think by sharing it and talking about how you overcome it will help like someone going through a similar thing.
Okay, okay. I can share something recently that happened because I actually really think it was really beautiful. So, it's really personal. So my son, he's failing a subject right now, and if anyone that is a parent, um, like how devastating that is to see your kid struggling in school. And you do kind of have this like mom or father ego, like this parent ego where you're like, oh, like I'm failing. Oh, I'm failing my kid. So I was very much in that quite recently. It was like I think it was like a month ago. And so yeah, my son was struggling and I'm like, fuck, like I'm just like failing as a mom. And like that is so fucking painful. I don't just first of all, like that is just so painful to feel like you're failing as a parent. Um, so yeah, I'm just like sitting in that. And my lover, he came to me and he's like, how can you let this happen? Oh no, what happened was my son was late again to school. And like that's another thing. My son's 14. It's really hard to get him to school on time. So that's another current struggle. But anyways, my partner, just him unintentionally just kind of like doesn't notice that I'm like feeling what I'm feeling because I wasn't really expressing it either. He comes like, how can you let this happen? And it was just a fucking dagger. Like it was just a dagger in my heart. And I'm already feeling like I'm failing. And then all of a sudden, the person you would want to support you and to like hold you and like to really journey this with you and like give some direction, maybe just like, just like, I'm just in my like soupiness. I'm like, oh. And me, like 5 years ago, I would have like, fuck you. Like, how could you say that? Just like completely, like complete reactivity, like hot potato, all my emotions on him. But thankfully, I'm no longer that person. Um, what I did though was like it just because it was so painful, like I couldn't even cognitively like think of like anything artistically to say. Like online, they'll probably like, oh, say, oh, you should have said this, da, 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 like proper communication. But it's like it hurt. So all I could be was just like, oh, that really hurts. I just can't right now. And that's just how it came out. Like I don't even like how it came out, but that's just how it came out. And then that interaction kind of ended because we were both kind of like, busy in your day, like you're just doing shit. So then he left, and then I'm still sitting in it because it is so fucking painful. And then to have that dagger, like, because my another big thing that I'm super committed in is again, like I said earlier, like really checking in with my heart and like really being honest with myself and like self-pleasuring essentially day moment to moment. So like I'm in this deep sensation. And so yeah, anyways, he left, and then I went to do my own process. So I really like held my heart and I got to the root of it. And I just that's how I noticed that I'm just like I feel like I'm feeling as a parent. And there was just so much emotion, and I did some crying. That's some emotional release, but like it was still there. Like it was just so much. And then I realized I'm like, fuck, like I'm not supposed to do this alone right now. So I picked myself up off my floor and I walked downstairs to where my partner was. And he's just like laying on the couch on his phone doing something. And I just stood there looking at him. I'm just like, hey, I really need you right now. And I just started bawling as soon as I just said, I need you. Cause I think that like just admitting, just simply for even whether it be a woman or a man, just admitting to your lover that I need you when you're so fucking broken, like when you feel not like you are broken, but you feel so like just collapsed is so vulnerable. And it like I just like I need you, blah, and I just like was just like bawling my eyes off. He's like, okay, just come here. So I just laid there and started crying on him. So I think what I want to share about that is just like as humans, as adult humans, whether you're a parent or not, in our days, like we are constantly feeling things. We are constantly moving through shit. We are constantly in our deep wounding, like in and out of it, in and out of it. And the challenge is are staying as open as we possibly can when those moments come in our day. Like it can be so easy to like slip into the old way of habitual patterns and callous over and like, shield our hearts and cross our arms and turn away from our lover. But the challenge really is like, how can you still keep your heart open and just so connected with them? Because
Right.
that is the relational field, right? Like keeping your heart open and staying connected. So yeah, the challenge for me was just like to admit that in that moment, I still needed him.
Yeah, thank you for that sharing. It brought me up another question. So, what if
Mm-hmm.
you talk to your partner or your lover and you're stating your needs and they're not able to meet those needs, like your three relationships in the past have, or they put it on
Mm-hmm.
you, and that's not aligned? Like, what do you do, and how do you get out? How like you've been there, and it's like not
Yeah.
easy. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple layers to this. And I want to rewind in that like process that I did first before I address this beautiful question. And the first layer is I had to go and be with myself first. I had to really lean on those needs in my heart and be with myself such that, like I said, there was crying that happened prior. I really needed to have some form of self-holding and get really clear on what my needs were before I hot potatoed my emotions on my lover. And when we do that, we give ourselves the space to process our emotions a little bit. Like, so for me, what that looked like essentially, if I share with my process, it was actually self pleasure. So I use sound, breath, movement, and touch to really be with that feeling of I'm failing as a mom. I literally did that for probably 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, to get really like honest with like, oh, okay, how is the sensation moving through my body? So I did sound, breath, movement, and touch with that failing feeling, which was fucking painful. I don't want to brush over that because I know anyone that's felt that before, whether it be failing at life, failing, with their business, failing at anything is fucking painful. So yeah, I had to really sit with that. And when you do that, you allow yourself to lean back and hold yourself and be with those sensations. When you go to your lover and you express, whatever was happening, it's a lot softer rather than it being like a sword, like you're like dumping and like slicing them like, hey, take all of my emotions. You're coming at them and just simply saying like, hey, I need you right now. So that's just the first layer. So the way it feels is very different. There's a lot more space rather than it just being like, yeah. Does that make sense? Like there's a lot more space when you come in that way. Yeah. So now, because I went through that process, and it's actually something that I teach my clients as well, because you go through that first. Yes, you need your partner, and the nuanced layers you don't actually, because there is a part of you that's already done the holding. You've already kind of been through it, but there's just this knowing that in the relation field, because this specific situation that I was in, it's like the mom and father, like you are a single unit, so it's like you do need to have that conversation and like come back into that union, that relational field together, and to build that bond again, because it was like when he said those words and I felt that thing, it was like that field was like it like broke. So I needed to reestablish that. So there was a knowing that, okay, I need him. Even that in that moment I didn't. Now that I'm sharing it, it's making more sense. So thank you for letting me like speak to this more too. Um, so anyways, when you do that and they still say I don't know, I can't do this right now, or like whatever, you are already feeling really sound in your body because you already did the holding prior. So even if they say no, yeah, it's gonna fucking hurt. Yeah, it may not be the answer that you want, but in your heart, in your body, in your nervous system, you're okay. And there's no like chasing or clenching. So that is the dynamic of a healthy, secure, stable relationship. Now, to kind of go back into like the abusive relationships that I've been in, one, there was never any self-holding on my side. So even though I, you know, I've been physically abused, um, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but as a domestic abuse survivor, I also had my role in those situations. You know, I was in those relationships like 2 years each, so 6 years total. Every single day of those relationships, I always had a choice to leave, and I never did. Yeah, there's obviously emotional entanglement and enmeshment and just like all these other manipulation things that are happening, but I still always had that choice. I remember days and like, oh, I should leave, and I didn't. So I just want to lay that nuanced layer. So if it is an abusive dynamic, there needs to be a level of self-responsibility for ourselves, to really get clear, like, okay, is this actually healthy? Like, am I being respected? Am I respecting myself? I hope that
Yeah.
answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So every episode I ask a final few questions. We're at that point, and so here they come. Through all your journey thus far, what has been the greatest life lesson you've learned on your path that you feel called in this moment, most true to you, and you wish to share with us?
My greatest life lesson.
And it feels most true to you in this moment.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's something that actually keeps coming for me to like really sink into that lesson within myself is just how valuable every single human being is. Just every single human being on this planet, just how valuable they are. You are, I am. And what's allowed me to really sink that into my nervous system, like to just, if I close my eyes and I'm like, oh, okay, is that true? Yeah, it's fucking true. Like I could feel it without like no hesitation. It has been my pleasure. So really giving myself the space to experience my pleasure, to sink back into what pleasure is for me, learning what pleasure is for me, experiencing it so low for myself. And pleasure, just it really reminds us how valuable you and I are, we are. So that would be my life lesson.
Okay. In 3 words, how you describe the experience you were having on this earth? And you can elaborate on said words if you wish as well. But yeah, what would be the 3 words you would use to describe the experience you were having in this reality?
3 words. Oh my God.
Doesn't have to be a sentence.
uh yeah. Well, the first word that comes to me, ecstatic,
Okay.
home, and erotic.
Okay, why those words? Why static, home, and erotic?
Yeah, ecstatic because Oh my gosh. Just because I don't know, I just have such a beautiful relationship with like ecstatic state. So that was just the first word that came to me. So like ecstatic is just like, wow, like this, like, wow, just like this beautiful like state, just like pulsating through each and every one of us. So that's just kind of what came to me.
And then home.
Home, yeah, just because I to me it's every day it just feels like there's like this constant remembering of like coming back home, coming back home.
Yeah, it's an inside job. And then erotic.
Yeah, erotic. I honestly feel like this whole existence is just one huge love story. And when I think about eroticism, it's not about being sexual. It really is just about like even right now, like our conversation is incredibly erotic. Like you are watching me, like seeing me, and I'm, verbally sharing a story. And it's just like this beautiful, like to and from energetic. So to me, that's incredibly erotic. So every single moment to me is just erotic.
Beautiful. Final question. We played around with time. We've examined your past. We've examined your present. Let's go into the future. We're gonna be alongside an 85-year-old Chelsy Brause. Who is that 85-year-old woman? Where are you? Who are you surrounded by? What is the legacy you've left here in your 85 years? And what are the predominant feelings in your being, in your soul?
Mm. Well, I want to say the feelings first because that came the quickest. So the predominant feelings is just like this childlike silliness. Like there definitely is just like play. I guess play would be like this huge like theme for me. What would I be doing? Oh my God. For some reason I just saw like white hair. Like so my hair's white when I'm 85. Everyone doesn't see me. My hair's white. I stopped dyeing it. Uh, and oh no, I can see myself. I'm just getting visuals now that you're asking me. I'm just seeing like myself walking along an ocean, and I feel very complete. And yeah, I have my family nearby, and I feel really fulfilled.
Beautiful. I would just like you to tap into that state. Maybe just close your eyes, connect with one of your tools, your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Just feel into that place of childlike silliness and play, despite the white hair. Your family's around nearby. You're feeling a sense of fullness, completion. The ocean breeze is in the air. You smell that on your nose and against your skin. And I'm going to bring us back to the present day. And that 85-year-old Chelsy, she whispers you a message. What does she tell you?
Aw, she said, "Be free."
Beautiful. You are. We are. Always an opportunity to step into our freedom. It's a choice, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's power. So for people wanting to connect with you, they can find you on Instagram at Chelsy Brause. And from there, you have a link tree to all your stuff, including your
Mm-hmm.
upcoming Fire Resolution Retreat with Stephanie Jaie in Austin, Texas. But you could also do that online. Any closing words from you?
Mm. Don't forget that your pleasure is alignment.
Don't forget that your pleasure is alignment. Well, here's to alignment. We close every conversation with the digital fist bump. Boom. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Derek.